Everybody, it's Margitt. Welcome to my video series on my fibroid story. This is video number 7, and this will be the last one that I have in this series. So today I'm going to talk about a UAE, which is a uterine artery embolism. Sometimes it may be called a UFE, which is a uterine fibroid embolism. And this is something that I had in February of 2019. So I just had my first year anniversary. This procedure is to help shrink fibroids. It is a procedure that they go in, it's done by a radiologist. They go in through an artery, either in the right or left groin. They feed a catheter in there and they try to find the artery that feeds the tumor. Once they find the arteries that feed the tumor, they bring out these teeny tiny little pellets. They fill in the artery with these pellets and it embolizes, or it suffocates the blood so that the tumor doesn't receive the blood supply, and eventually the tumor will shrink. So I had this procedure because after about 14 months after the Mayo Clinic procedure, the MRI FUS that I talk about in video 6, my fibroid had come back. I began around Christmas time, around month 14, to have a lot of pressure and a lot of urinary frequency, especially at night, which was very unusual for me. And I knew something was up. So it was around Christmas time. I knew that in January I'd have to call my OB-GYN and make an appointment for a follow-up. So in the meantime, the universe had a different plan for me. So in January, I was also thinking I was going to get healthy and start some hot yoga. It would be good for detoxing and getting my body into shape. So I went to a hot yoga class and I read that you should be drinking lots of water because you might, might lose a lot of water during the session. So I started drinking a lot of water. I went through the hot yoga class, and when I came home, I had a really hard time urinating. Like a lot of the flow wasn't very strong. It was just like trickling out. My urine was just trickling, and I had a lot of pressure. I knew that I had drinking, some big water containers full, over 32 ounces. So I had a couple of those, and I knew that it was full. So, and I couldn't have sweated that much. So I started to get a little panicky, and I started just laying down and just doing the Mayan abdominal massage to really help loosen up some of the tension and the worry that I was having around my urethra. And long story short, I couldn't pee. I began to have spasms around my urethra that were very, very painful, and I knew that I needed to seek medical and emergency attention. So I went to the emergency room. They put a urinary catheter, and immediately I peed out over 2.5 liters of urine. So that felt better, but to have this bag and this catheter stuck in you and all this worry that your fibroid is back is just, I was devastated. I knew that this was going to be another hard road for me, and something that I didn't want to face. So I had the CAT scan. It showed, of course, that my fibroid, the half a fibroid that I had come home with from the Mayo Clinic, had grew back completely to the same size it was. And I just kept hearing from each doctor that had come to see me that I need to get a hysterectomy. So they tried to take the catheter out so that I didn't have to go home with it, and they tried it twice during the night, and I couldn't pee on my own. So I had to go home for the long weekend with a urinary catheter inside. It's the middle of winter, you're in a lot of pain, and you have a urinary catheter, and you know that your fibroid's back. So man, did I go down into the darkness. I just dove deep into the darkness and tried to shed some light on this shithole that I was in. And how did I get here? So I had 3 days of this catheter in me, reminding me that things can get worse. Things are worse, and you just have to surrender and let this go, because this is really out of your power. And so I did a lot of crying. I began to learn about surrender and really what that means, and losing, letting go and not having control. I began to really call in the Divine Mother and just allowing myself to be comforted by the unknown. And it was really a new concept for me, and I couldn't sleep. And so I just spent a lot of time praying and praying and praying. I have a beautiful friend and healer that I'm so grateful to have in my life. And she was able to shine some light into this darkness too. She was able to have me work through some of this pissed offness that I had going on. Literally being so pissed off that I literally cut my urine off. Didn't really put all that together until I started talking about how I was pissed off. And I was like, wow, man, the universe gets really creative with me. So by the time I really had some more light, I was still full of fear, did not want a hysterectomy, did not want any kind of medical procedure after the Mayo Clinic. But I knew that I was going into the darkness and I was going to be fine, and I just had to trust what the next steps were. So I went to the urologist after about 3 days to see if I can pee on my own. They fill your bladder up and then they kind of leave you in the room, and then they come back to do some testing before and after you urinate, and I was scared that I wasn't going to be able to do that. And I remember having this out-of-body experience where I went down on my knees, and I remember seeing myself from above, and I just remember saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for this experience. Like, thank you for allowing me to have this experience, to shed light on my life and my beautiful husband and my beautiful family that I have. And then I saw my husband in the office, all worried, and how grateful I was for him to be a part of this journey and to help provide and support me through this. And he just carried me through it so beautifully, was always by my side, never, ever leaving it. So that brought a huge light on that part of my life too, that I'm really grateful for. So I was able to pee on my own, and then after I was able to go home, all the steps into the UAE went easy. The OB-GYN appointment, the radiology appointment, it just went really easy, and within 2 weeks I had the UAE appointment. I knew that once I said yes, I wanted it done, and it just went really, really quick. So the UAE, I was still very scared to death, but I knew that I had a lot of people praying for me. And again, it was very palpable that even if I died from this procedure, I was going to be okay. I got to that point because I felt like I was literally jumping off of a cliff. That's how scared I was of having this medical procedure done. It was very scary, and I just continued to pray and to be held and to really trust the process. And there was a point during the procedure where I had a reaction to the antibiotics, so I wasn't given a lot of pain medication, so I was pretty much awake and alert through the whole thing. And I could see the doctor just really taking care of me, always talking to me, having me involved, checking up on me, and I could just see his passionate and care and intelligence. And I knew if anything happened to me in my body, that I would be completely cared for in the best way that he knew how to keep me alive. So it was just this beautiful awareness that I had come out with. I completely trusted him. It was not my hope to be awake as fully during that procedure, but I was, and for good reasons. So there wasn't a lot of pain afterward. There's a lot of horror stories on YouTube about a lot of pain and cramping after a UAE. A lot of times when the tumor is shrinking, there will be a lot of cramping and a lot of pain. And the doctor said you're going to either have pain or you're not. It's either one or the other. And some people do and some people don't. I kind of didn't. I was hooked up to pain medication pump. I never used it in the hospital. I went home that evening. I was given Tylenol because I'm allergic to ibuprofen. And that seemed to really do its job. I believe I was given a lot of steroids during that procedure because my body turned bright red from the allergic reaction to the antibiotics. So maybe that helped, but I never had to take any pain medication afterwards. The cramping would get a little bit more, it was more like an aggravation when I was standing for long periods of time or I was walking. But once I rested and sat back down, then the cramping dissipated. So I did not have a lot of pain after my UAE. Another thing that people talk about on YouTube is that you may pass some parts of the fibroid when you have your period. And I would say for about maybe the second month, I knew it was a little bit of purpley. It was kind of like a flat blood clot, but it was purple, like a lighter purple. So I knew that was some of the fibroid that was sloughing off. It wasn't huge. I was able to pass it. It maybe was as big as, my thumb right here. I didn't have any problems with clots or having problems passing that. So that was kind of one of the other areas that I was really worried about, because sometimes people do have big clots that get stuck. But I didn't have any of that problem. And again, don't listen to everything you see on YouTube, maybe in this, but this is my story. And so it was a very easy recovery. I have to say the groin puncture was probably worse pain than the actual cramping. But within maybe 3 days, the puncture was beautifully healed and didn't have a problem after that at all. So that was super easy, and I was back to normal driving and doing my thing in a week. Probably maybe 5 days, I was back to normal. Easy recovery, periods are easy, less cramping, and just 3 days on and off. It's just really super easy and light. So I would say that that was a really success, and if I could tell myself 10 years ago I would have that done, but then I can't shortchange myself for everything that I have gone on in this journey and how much I've learned. I just wish, I wanted to have this video so other people don't have to suffer for so long because of fear. And this is a great way, if you're over 45 and you don't want any more children, you don't want a hysterectomy, I think a UAE, if you don't have a lot of fibroids, if you just have like a few big ones like I did. I just had three different fibroids that have been there for the same. There hasn't been a new one. They've always been 3. I think people get into more difficulties if they have multiple ones and keep growing new ones. So that's a little bit different. You might need a different procedure, but if this UAE, if you're a good candidate, I think it's a great procedure. So one more thing is that I got from this procedure is that at the end of the procedure, he said it was pretty easy because the tumor was just being fed from the left side. I think is hysterical because that's the feminine side. And I feel like I was healing this feminine wound, my divine feminine, for so long that it was kind of like chuckling. To me, it was funny because it was kind of like this was an end to all this pain and suffering, that I had finally put an end to it and learned a lot from this whole journey, and it was over. So I was really grateful. So that's all my story. I'm going to end this series here. I'm so grateful for you to be on this journey with me. If you want to leave a comment or like it, please do. And if you want to hear more about what I'm going to be talking about in my channels and you want to get it every time I post, then please subscribe. I will be talking about how this has been quite a journey for me, and by telling you my story, it has been a really deep healing process, the things that haven't been processed or maybe on a deeper level. So I look forward to sharing that with you. And thank you for being on this ride with me. Love you lots. Talk to you next time. Take care. Mwah.